Welcome, everybody. This is a protocols.io webinar on using visuals to improve your protocol. My name is Alex Shirazi. I'm a principal product designer at protocols.io. Just a few notes before we get started. We are recording this webinar, and so if you have any questions, feel free to ask a question through the chat window at the bottom corner of the Zoom webinar screen, and we'll be reserving time at the end to ask any questions. So if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat area and we'll address them after the webinar. So before we get started, I really want to talk about, what do we mean when we say the word visuals? And so when it comes to protocols, visuals could be photos, videos, charts, diagrams, or even highlighted text or components, which we'll go over within your protocol. And the goal of adding visuals is to increase the reproducibility of your protocols first and foremost, but also to give a nicer experience to anybody that is reading your protocols. So there are a couple different tools that we'll be going over, but before we even go over those tools, I want to talk about a couple of the really nice features that are currently within protocols.io that you can use as examples and also learning more about adding the visuals that currently exist in the protocols. So the first is the Explore page. And so I'm going to switch over to the protocols.io website here. And if you have ever noticed, there's an Explore button on the homepage here. So if you go ahead and click that, then you see a really nicely curated list of protocols that have been recently published or handpicked by the staff. And here you can go ahead and click on a protocol, and you can kind of see what some of the protocols that other professionals, researchers, scientists are putting together, what they look like. More specifically, and this example here is a really nice protocol with a number of components that they have listed in their protocol. But I have a really nice example of a protocol that I've saved here that highlights a lot of great visuals with photos. And so as you can see, they clearly demonstrate through the steps, the step-by-step process, what their protocols look like, what their protocols and the steps look like as they go through. And so really nice visual aid to add these photos here. You can also add videos. And so this protocol has a really nice video demonstration of this person doing a physical activity. And so both photos and videos are very, very helpful when it comes to creating your protocol. I can go ahead and actually demonstrate how easy it is to add videos. So I have an example protocol here, and I'm going to go ahead and click on this step. And there's a button here for inserting images and video. And I have a sample image here, and I'm just going to go ahead and upload that. And there we go. It's automatically saved in the protocol. Now, what's really cool is that if I add a new step, I could even mark critical steps with this icon here and have an icon for the step. So let's say this is an incubation step. I can click incubation and then press save. And now there's a incubation icon to the left of the step. And I can say this is a step. Earlier I mentioned components. Components are also a really nice way to add highlighted text and visuals. So let's go ahead and add a new step here. And let's say we are working with temperatures. So we can say heat, and I'll just say sample 2, and then click on the temperature component. And I can say 40 degrees Celsius and enter that in. What's really cool about this is that when someone is running the protocol, there will be, if there's a timer, an active timer component, different types of components that actually are interactive while you run the protocol. So now let's actually transition to creating new images. So we know how to add images to a protocol to kind of spruce it up a bit. But what if you don't have the image? What if you don't have the photo or the chart or the diagram? There's a couple of really cool tools, some of them we're familiar with, such as PowerPoint or Keynote, that you may not have been currently using for creating images or graphics. What's really nice about using PowerPoint or Keynote, and we'll demonstrate this in just a second, is that a lot of people already have something like PowerPoint or Keynote on their computer. And you could easily export to a PNG or PDF format and either attach it as a file to your protocol or insert the actual image to your protocol. And because there is familiarity with it, there will be a little bit more of an easy to use interface, something that you might not have thought of before. So let's go ahead and switch to Keynote. And I'm going to go ahead and just click on a white presentation here. I am going to actually delete this template file. And I'm going to click on Shapes and click on this kind of like rounded rectangle shape. Expand it a little bit. Make a copy of it. Move it down here. And let's say I'm working on an experiment that has different types of serum. So let's say one of the types of serum that I'm working with is FBS, and then another is just serum-free media. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this Arrange button and then rotate it to 90 degrees. Move that over here. Do the same with this. And of course, this is just a quick example, but depending on whether you're using Keynote or PowerPoint, there will be a lot of different tool sets. What's really cool is that I can add even arrows here. So let's go ahead and add this arrow, maybe copy it one more time, and then add it for our last experiment. If we are doing experiments with cell culture, we can say, for example, I'll just use the example for beef and poultry, and I'll say pork for this other example, add them here. And I have some animal shapes in here too, so I could even go ahead and add these shapes. And let's try to find a cow here for the beef. And then, of course, for the poultry, I will choose this chicken here. So we've created a very simplified diagram, but we've done it using Keynote. So what's typically used for creating slides can also be used for creating all types of diagrams. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take a screenshot of this. I could also export it to some sort of image format, but for the purpose of this demo, I'm just going to create a screenshot here. And we'll add it to a protocol later. And so that's kind of a quick example of how to use PowerPoint or Keynote to create some graphics that could be used for your protocol. One thing I want to mention is that you could also use different types of graphics to create workflow diagrams for your abstract. Here's an example from Merck, and they've added this just below the abstract, which is kind of a nice thing to do when you're adding some of the preliminary details of your protocol. The next tool that we're going to go over is called Canva. And this tool is a free tool that has paid plans. And you can also export it to a PNG file. And it's all online, so you don't need to download any software. And so let's go ahead and try out Canva. So I've already created an account here. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on Create Design. And I'm going to use the Custom Dimensions feature. And let's just say 500 pixels by 500 pixels and create design. They give me a really nice canvas to work with on the right here. And as you can see, they have different templates, photos, and elements that we can use. Let's say I have a protocol about something related to the brain. I can go ahead and search brain here. And notice I'm in templates, so I don't want any of these templates. I want maybe some different types of visuals related to the brain. And I've recently searched brain, but let me go ahead and search again to see the different options. There's a couple different options I have here. I'm going to choose this one, and that inputs this kind of like clip art version of brain here. And now I'm just going to clear the search, and I really like this this kind of abstract shape. I'm going to add that as well, and now I'm going to manipulate the different images I have a little bit, maybe make this a little bit bigger. Let's say some of the research that you're conducting or the protocol covers a certain aspect of the brain. I can use this element, and I'll rotate it a bit, to highlight the section I want to talk about. And in Canva, there's a transparency icon here, so I can click on that and then reduce the transparency. And so now it kind of showcases that, you know, this is the area of the brain that I want to highlight to supplement the protocol. And I'll go ahead and take a screenshot of this too, although there's a variety of download options. So you could also just click download, and PNG is the suggested file, but you could also export to PDF and a couple different files. So that was Canva, and that's just at canva.com. The next tool is called BioRender, and this is also a free tool that has paid options. What's very cool about BioRender is that it has more of a science focus than Canva, whereas Canva is a little bit more generalized. And BioRender is also an online editor. So let's go ahead and go to BioRender and take a look at that. So once again, I've already logged into BioRender and created an account. And I'm going to go ahead and just click on the plus sign for blank illustration. And I will, again, choose the custom option. And this time, it doesn't give me the option for pixels, but I will just use inches and do 5 by 5. And as you see, there's also kind of like a canvas area to your right, and then a search field option to your left. And so if we are to search brain again, there's kind of a lot more options than we had before. Some of them even have elements and areas of the brain already highlighted. So I'm going to go ahead and just choose this one here. And I'm going to click and drag that over to the canvas. And here it is, pretty nice and detailed. And then click on shapes. And some of these shapes are a little bit more abstract, but here's something that's a little bit more like the bean I had before. And I'm just going to do the same thing just to kind of demonstrate that this is a similar type of tool. What's cool about BioRender is that you have a little bit more options in terms of colors and things like that. And of course, there's the transparency or opacity option here, which I will also use to highlight. This also has an export feature, which is very similar, or you can simply just take a screenshot of the image that you want and place it into your protocol. We have a little watermark here. What's interesting about BioRender is that you can also request additional icons or graphics. So if there's something that is not currently in their database, you can ask them to create it for a fee. And it's a pretty useful tool. Finally, I want to talk about another website called Fiverr that's a little bit more hands-off. So, you know, in the previous examples, we've kind of created different quick diagrams or graphics with the tool set that we had ourselves. With Fiverr, you hire a consultant to create a particular type of graphic. Fiverr.com allows you to hire all different types of consultants, such as doing voiceovers or graphic design, logo design, things like that. But for the purpose of adding visuals to a protocol, you can find illustrative work or different types of work that is related to the research or protocol that you're putting together. So, for example, whereas before we would create something and have it immediately, in this scenario, you would hire someone. The turnaround time is usually anywhere between 3 to 7 days. and you have to be very careful about publishing rights. And so let's go ahead and go to Fiverr and see what kinds of things that we can find. I think that if I search scientific diagram, it might be the most generic way to bring up a couple different things. And we have this pretty interesting image of heart here. And so this person, one of the users of Fiverr, is offering that he can create diagrams like this or like this. And so this starts at around $5 to $6 US per graphic with a 3-day turnaround. But there's a ton of different contractors here that might be able to find you or create the perfect graphic for your protocol. One thing that I had mentioned is that it's important to make sure you have the right publishing rights. So here, for example, on this example, we have commercial use. And so it's always good to kind of ask the illustrator or designer what kind of publishing rights are available if you are going to use Fiverr, and also explaining that you're going to be putting it on a protocol, whether it's public or private or whatever it may be. And of course, last but not least, it's important to, once you have your graphic, add it to protocols or your protocol. And so I had this example protocol here, so I'm going to add a new step here and add a little bit of, or actually I'll go ahead and just add an image. And I have an image of my brain here. I'm going to choose this one and click on that and see it. It uploads. And once it has uploaded, I see it there and say this is a test. And there we go. Yeah. So that's just a couple quick tips and tools that we can use to improve your protocol on protocols.io. We'll be jumping to questions now. And of course, if you have any questions in the future or after the webinar, feel free to reach me just at alex@protocols.io.